and helped the physician establish his practice.
Nice.
And I never left. I traversed the state, but I remember when this building was being rehabbed, when Bicentennial Park was being developed. So coming in now, you are a major metropolitan area now with all the constraints and parking and traffic and construction that I'm so used to growing up in metropolitan Detroit. So it is wonderful to be home because you are a major player. Thanks for being here.
That's exciting. And Cynthia Davis, our artist today, is combining her love of the honeybee, the miracle of the honeybee, with art. And doing that takes time to put together a story, which she is going to be sharing with us. But she also is an artist herself. And interspersed with these images of art are some of Cynthia's work. And tell us, talking kind of loudly into this microphone, how it is that you love the honeybee.
The honeybee, I've only been stung once in the last 7 years, and I've been working with the honeybees for the last 10 years. I had an opportunity to meet established apiarist. That's the professional name for a bee farm. He's been beekeeping for over 40 years. He taught me, so I've been a beekeeper for close to 10 years now. So, in helping him run his business, you know, a lot of it is marketing and business and all that, but they are just absolutely beautiful, efficient creatures, and we need to protect them and save them. So whenever I teach, either at the Grove City store or now in Marietta at that store, we combine all that with students about the pollinators in general. So we talk a little bit about history and why there's some imperatives now to being a part of our existence, and then again, some of the things that I do with the pollinators when I'm painting and clean air, which will run by the way some of these folks here in the room.
Yeah, that's great.
Yes, sir.
And you were here at the Cultural Arts Center in the 80s, huh?
Yes. So it's just a fabulous place. You have a jewel here. Continue to see. Please try and continue to see it sustained. And I think with the amount of changes and the cosmopolitan environment that you truly are embracing now, no doubt you will be here for a long, long time. It's great to see all these other buildings downtown being renovated and utilized as art spaces. In the United States, we have a bad habit of blacktopping everything, tearing things down. And when you travel as much as I have in my professional life, people are trying to maintain and save things. So my purpose is to help maintain those little pollinators out there. There's so many more besides the bees themselves, so my little contribution is primarily for that.
To the environment, how much we need the honeybee in the environment. My husband and I were reflecting, sitting in our backyard watching the rabbies, we call them the rabbies, hopping, and the beautiful green trees and grass, because we know where we're living right now as of September 1st. We're there because of a fire in December. God love them, Three Stooges burned our house. So yeah, I know, I looked up the Three Stooges. My pastor said you could call them worse than that. But anyhow, our house is burned, so we're living in a rental. But as of September 1st, 14 of these houses are going to be razed to the ground. And this person coming in is going to do the building of a high-rise, a restaurant, all kinds of businesses where we are. And the joy and the kind of the consolation. So watch the bees, watch the rabbies, no fear around for some reason or another. So these rabbies thrive. But I think this is the environment we want to keep precious. And if we're going to build and replace the green, we've got to know how to do the alternative. And I bet you've thought a lot about that.
see it every day. The urban art space downtown here, where the Lazarus building used to be, years ago when that was under construction, they asked us if we wanted to do the apiary, have some beehives up on the roof. And Mr. North declined at the time, so we have some excellent urban beekeepers here. Nina Bagley here in German Village.
Yeah.
We paint by her house. So, I mean, the consciousness is there. And honeybees need three primary things: place to forage from, water, biota, and sun and shade. Sun and shade. We need those primary things. And Ohio is primarily turning into a monoculture, which is corn, soybeans, and wheat. So one of the things I try to educate school groups on, and the adults, is that save some of those woodlots, plant wildflowers. We've got another painter we work with tomorrow, and they've done away with their front lawn. It's just all wildflowers and garden greens. We love the greens of golf courses, but there's a primary advantage of using lots of chemical things to keep that perfect green that's out there. So those are a lot of the things that we talk about here in Ohio when we're talking about the plight of pollinators and honeybees and what we do to save them.
Okay, that's a great idea to give J. Lou, who's the one, you know his restaurants? He's the one who's building the condos, tearing down the houses. I'm going to tell him about the bees on the roof.
Yeah.
Wow, thank you. That made me feel better. All right, well, tell us how you're going to proceed here.
I'm going to stand up and start talking and show you pictures. That's how we're going to proceed from here. Thank you so much. I do appreciate it.
Thank you.
Again, I have limited time with you. What I will do is talk about the history of art and honeybees and how far back we go as a global entity, and how the honeybees were revered either for a variety of cultural rituals or religion, or for embalming mummies. In Egyptian culture, the use of wax, propolis, pollen, honey itself, and how we as artists utilize wax for encaustic arts. So it's a property of what these beautiful creatures provide us with. We utilize it all. We don't waste anything. They don't either. They are highly efficient. So when you separate the romanticism away from honeybees and art and all that, they are very, very, very efficient in what they do. They are almost Shakespearean in their culture, because I'll tell you a little bit about the queens and what happens to them over time.
You want me to turn the lights out here?
Okay, if you like. If you like. Okay. So there's about 17 different kinds of honeybees that we take a look at. Apis melliflora is the primary honeybee that produces that product that we all like. People that do not like honey, once they come to either festivals where they have an opportunity to try really good honey, or to come to our store in Grove City or now Marietta, and this is certainly not a plug for any of that, but that has been my road to all of you today. Alrighty. Anybody recognize some of these symbols right here and why that would be used? Okay. It's almost a religious symbol, isn't it? Okay. From what you can see right there. And they have utilized honeybees as part of that as well. So when you're looking at Buddhism or anything else, or the signs of prayer, you see this. When I look at some of the historical artifacts from the Vatican, boom, it goes, it's in many, 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 many artifacts as well as art for those different religious cultures. So this is always a good one to start with. Okay. When I started looking at other artists...
Yeah, I wonder if you stood here, we could avoid that sound. If not, I have to go get Jeff.
Oh, but was it reverberating?
Something about reverberation. Do you notice that?
It might have been you speaking too close. Okay, can you hear that? Is that better? Okay. real good. The slide that we have up here right now is from a Russian artist, and they were very big in the 1800s up into present time with plein air painting. We do that here in the United States, all over the world. We travel around the world to go plein air painting, right? Yes, we do. So you can see what happens in paintings like this. It comes down to a solitary figure, the beekeeper, looking at his apiaries or studying the bees. They are absolutely hypnotic. And you can see the beauty of this painting alone. They capture everything that we as plein air artists would be trying to capture in a particular painting. This gentleman here is incredible because this is also from another Russian artist. And I'm going to show you a picture of the gentleman that taught me. This is his doppelganger. And this is a painting from the 1800s. When I showed him this painting, I said, "You truly have come back as a beekeeper." So you can see just the delight on his face, that beautiful product in front of him. These are long strap frames. You can see the comb honey on the inside there. And again, the difference between the previous picture, he's not sitting there with any sort of headgear on or gloves, is he? He may have one thing that is utilized to help calm down the bees, and that would be smoke from his pipe to calm them down a little bit. Okay, I like this one a lot. This is another one, and Jim North, who's in the previous iteration there, he has a buddy that he's a beekeeper with. His name is Dan, and he looks like this guy. And these two have been beekeeping together for over 40 years. So again, here now you see the traditional beekeeping equipment in use, a smoker, the pliers that they use to open up. And some very big bees. Great plein air painting. Alrighty. Anybody recognize this one? Oh, this is from Peter Brugger in the Dutch period. And I almost think that they almost look like aliens, but because of the masks that they have on to protect their faces. Most beekeepers today will get 5, 10, 15 stings in the course of a day or an afternoon. I live with the bees. I've only been stung once in 7 years, and that was primarily by accident. I have a mud room off the side entrance of the house, and I reached for a curtain rod, and a little girl got in there. Primarily the bees are girls. So she's in the middle of the curtain rod. I picked it up, it had a bee sting right in the middle of my hand. Bee stings do hurt, but not as bad as hornets or wasps or any of the other bees that are out there. Honeybees can only sting you once, and then they die, because that stinger is attached to the abdomen that pulls out their guts. So if you ever have an incursion with a honeybee, it's purely by accident, or they want to protect their hide. Makes sense to me, right? Yes, ma'am.
Do those big fat bumblebees sting?
Nah, they're not going to hurt you.
They do though.
Yeah, they can.
Females stay.
Yeah, the females have multiple barbs. The females are able to do that. But for the most part, they're just out there doing their thing. Most old timers, I'm sorry, go ahead. Most old timers, they'll catch one, put the proverbial string on it, and lead it around. It's very true. They do that. Yes.
Killer bees.
Pardon me? Killer bees?
bees.
Okay. You're talking about Africanized bees that came over from the sub-Saharan area. And again, honeybees in the United States are not native to the country. Those were brought over to help pollinate crops way back when, right? The Nina, the Pinta, the Santa Maria. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I'm allergic to them.
Yeah, you gotta watch out. Got your EpiPen?
Yeah.
We all know 911, right?
Yeah.
You betcha. Okay, yes, ma'am.
Do you think that people give off pheromones for fear?
They certainly do.
That's why
Yeah.
you go after those people?
Yeah. When I drive home every night, I've got 50 beehives right across the driveway, and there's another 100 at the end of the driveway. So when I come in, they are in various forms of flight, or they're out there cleaning out a frame from a hive. So there's just ways to work with them. They don't like perfume. They don't like dark clothes. Hey, I got perfume and dark clothes on today. So, but it's also a rainy day. Bees don't like to go out on rainy days. They get angry if people are messing around with the hives on rainy days. They don't like it. So they have temperaments just like we do. Okay, so if you know the temperament of your bees, you're in good shape. And the apiarist I work with, he knows his bees very well. And he knows when he's got an angry hive. When he purchases other hives from other beekeepers that are getting out of the business, it's called spirit and intent. You can really tell that that person is giving off signs, signals, pheromones, and it makes those bees angry. I truly believe that now. I didn't before, but there's just ways that you can conduct yourself where if it's nice and calm in your home, nice, friendly, calm atmosphere, you can tell sometimes. Other than that, forget it. They're bees. They're just going to do what they want. All right, here's another good painting, plein air again, from that same time frame. And those are very traditional, a little bit higher than what we normally would see, but still very well done and representative of beekeeping during that time frame. Here's another Russian artist that is showing a number of people, school children in particular, coming to see the hives out in the countryside. Another beautiful representation of beekeeping at work again during the late 1800s, early 1900s. Do they have any protective clothing on? And what kind of foliage is around them? Anybody noticing? Trees, bushes. You see a water source in the background?
Yeah.
And what did I tell you right at the beginning? They need three things. What do they need? You need a water source, sun and shade, and they need things to pull nectar from. Real good.
Do you know when people started building the hive containers? I don't know what to call them.
The long struts, the standard ones, early 1900s. Prior to that, they were the round skeps. Different cultures would use a lot of braided weaving. They look like baskets with an entrance hole in the middle.
Oh, is that what was in the Bruegel picture then?
The Bruegel picture, yeah. Okay. And then
But do you know when they started doing it that way? I guess what I'm trying to say, do you know when people started cultivating honeybees?
bees as a business
Yeah.
when Longstreth came into business. And then you'll see other cultures prior to that where they utilize honey either as a main ingredient for dietary reasons, so they're the people that would go out and get honey. You see the National Geographic specials now where guys are climbing up in the trees and on cliffs and everything. Those are highly prized. Yes, sir?
How do they get the bees to nest in or build their hives in those structures?
In those structures, okay, there's a process that they use now where they literally bring in queens and their attendants. There's another apparatus that they use and rear every year. They're called nukes, N-U-C-S, where you can buy a package of bees. It's normally about 500 bees in that package. So that if you want to start, like you want to do the bee farm, that's what you would probably be doing. A lot of other people will put out what they call our swarm boxes. They do that in the spring or they leave them out throughout the summer months in hopes of catching a live swarm of bees to go and put in another hive. Now, there's so many beekeepers in the areas that we're at, I don't know if I'm catching somebody else's bees from 10 blocks away or 20 blocks away. Yes, sir?
Is that how they make the honey nut Cheerios and honeycombs and stuff? The honeybee lip balm and stuff like that?
Yeah, well, when you have mass production like that, say from the Cheerios, they're buying bulk honey from some big commercial supplier, and then they really water it down. And then there's something that we call better living with chemistry. Sometimes it's just a powdery, it's the chemical compositions that give you the taste of honey to use on the cereal. Now lip balms are a little bit different. If you work with a natural producer, and some of the products that we have, some other really good local beekeepers. Anybody here hear of Honey Run Farm?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes? Okay. They're our neighbors. They're 10 miles down the road. You can find them over at North Market, they're now in Whole Foods. And I remember when Isaac only had one hive, his wife gave it to him as a birthday present. Now they have 4 kids and about 1,600 hives.
Wow.
He is considered a big bee producer. Now, Mr. North, whose doppelganger I showed you earlier, he was the largest beekeeper in the state of Ohio for many years. He's been beekeeping for over 40 years. He's now 84 years old, so he's really cut back. He's down to about how many, Julie? About 850? About 850 hives. So he's still a viable commercial operator. Yes, ma'am?
So when somebody has a big operation like that, do they hire people to work for them?
Yes, they do. Yeah. And that's real particular too, because a lot of people think that, you know, raising bees is this nice, wonderful, docile little hobby. It can be if you're the hobbyist, but if this is a business for you, it's labor intensive. How many here can lift 80 pounds easy? Times 2 or times 3 on a hive. Okay. Yes, ma'am.
Coming back to the art,
Yes, yes.
why do you think that beekeeping was such a popular form of art?
Because they are just so hypnotic. It's something that is in motion all the time. So if you can capture something that's in motion like that, prior to having a lot of photography at our disposal, how did we capture a great scene in years past before photography? Okay, we painted it. So there's a lot of the same reasons why. And there's that love of being outdoors. So you see plenty of great artistic representation. Thank you for the question. Okay, brings us right back around to art. You can see some of the more contemporary paintings that take place now. This is still from Russia, but you have, what is in her hand?
Honey.
Honey. Okay. It is such a captivating subject. We see artists out there where they have captured that essence of that glowing gold in a painting, and we're all like, how did they do that? I want to know how to do that. You have an instructor here that teaches encaustic arts? Okay. So you know how seductive that is as a media. Now, when we process the honey that comes in off of those frames that weigh 80 pounds and up, they go through huge centrifugal force fused machinery. Wax goes one way, honey goes the other. So when that honey is separated, the wax is yellow. That's its natural state. It has many uses, but primarily for encaustics arts, by the pound, because they're using it in their hobbies. Craftsmen, woodsmen, leather workers, surfers.
Do they use honey as medicine too?
Yes, they do. Excellent question. There's a big movement here in the United States again. Johnson & Johnson just released a Manuka honey-infused bandage. Now, honey was used as a natural antibiotic, antimicrobial in the theater of war back in the Civil War. Some of the initial reports, because there were no such things as antibiotics back then, so those field surgeons would use that to dress a wound or to at least provide some sort of adhesion there. Now, the properties of Manuka honey, which comes from New Zealand, yes, sir?
Yeah, do you use bees standard for medical?
Yeah, some people do. Some people will go.
Do you want to repeat that for everybody over there?
There are people that will seek out bee therapy, sting therapy, for a variety of arthritis, rheumatism, different things. It's one of the old-timey type modalities for treating a particular issue. But it's seeing a resurgence because everybody's accepting a variety of different medical treatments other than pills, drugs, more of a holistic approach, which we truly appreciate. Yes, sir.
This might be a silly question, but I've never heard it before, but does honey go bad?
No. No. There's been numerous studies and folks taking honey from the Egyptian tombs found in vessels. We have found honey back in Greece that goes back that far. Honey in its natural state will crystallize. I can't tell you if that honey that old is any good tasting, but for the most part, it will go back to its natural state, which is to granulate. We get granulation here in the state of Ohio. If it's wintertime, the honey's going to granulate. Some will, some won't. There's a way that we test honey for higher moisture contents. And anybody that's been here during the winter time, it can be either cold or really wet and rainy. This past year we had a winter and then a very protracted spring. So a lot of the honey that we test and grade has a higher moisture content. We've got a lot of European clients that will come in and they specifically ask for the crystallized honey because their kids call it crunchy candy, which is really good. Anybody here go to Red Stable in German Village?
I do.
They've got plenty of our crystallized honey and they keep it because people will buy it.
I sell my art there.
You do?
I'm out in the studio.
Excellent. Okay.
Is it chewy? I mean, I don't think I've had it in that form before. Is it?
Oh, I should have brought you some. It's crunchy.
Yeah.
It has a definite crunch to it. There's a couple different products that we have that are infused with cinnamon, so it's excellent that way. Who has the Pillsbury cinnamon rolls? Do they ever give you enough frosting? No, they don't. So you take the granulated cinnamon honey and you just drizzle that on. It's gorgeous.
The cinnamon pull parts.
Yeah, that's right. The city may pull apart. I love it. Okay. Let me see here. Okay, so our next slide.
You were telling us about the Manuka bees too.
Oh, how do I get it out of this money? Yeah, the Manuka honey is native to Australia and New Zealand.
Oh, yeah.
It has some amazing medicinal properties. They've already got a patent and a license on it coming from their country. There's huge controversies going on now where somebody in England has the ability to recreate Manuka from a Manuka plant in a greenhouse environment. So again, it gets down to marketing and timing and what you truly believe in. That is causing some issues with licensing and releasing here in the United States. So if you do buy Manuka honey, you can probably get it, and I've seen it at Whole Foods and other high-end health food stores, but you're looking for that seal from the country of New Zealand. And like anything else, it's like the buyer beware.
And what is that? What's different about it?
It has a very high content of the antimicrobial and antifungal properties in it that really work well. Now, honeybees within those square hives will make a substance called propolis, which is basically a sticky substance primarily from pine trees or any kind of tree that produces a sap. Honeybees will bring it in to line the insides of the hive. When you've got 40, 50,000 bees all living in the same space all winter long, it's going to get a little skanky inside, isn't it? Okay, so it's their way of insulation, but then again, it's also antimicrobial and antifungal. So when we have people, there's a company called Apothecary, that's all they want to do is they buy the propolis because they use it in their ointments and their tinctures and things like that. They're very effective. Yeah. Yes, sir.
Yes, last summer, I had some bees coming in my backyard. I had a big wine barrel, a giant wine barrel was a hole in the middle.
Yes.
And basically, I was sitting out on my patio, on the picnic table, and all of a sudden I seen a big swarm of bees.
Yeah.
I mean, bees.
Oh, yeah.
The whole sky was just, I saying, what's going on? But a couple days before, I seen a couple bees. You know, they didn't look like your normal little bees, but they must have been scouts or whatever. And basically, I'm just like, something out of Walt Disney World. And then they all went into the wine barrel. It was a big wine barrel, and it had a little hole. And basically, I had to get them out of the wine barrel. And the guy that my mom goes to church, the preacher that my mom goes to church, he is a beekeeper, and he was delighted to get the wild bees.
Well, sure.
Because they live longer and they live for the winter. And he was just elated, but they're a little bit meaner.
They can be, that's why they're wild.
Yeah.
And some of them prefer to stay wild. And what's interesting with bees is that they know when a separate bee or someone that does not belong to their hive comes to that entrance because they have their scouts out front and they will reject them gate. So they're like their own little gatekeepers. Here's more contemporary art that is utilizing honeycomb. And what else is in that picture? The flowers, the bee. So this is where we get into more contemporary uses of that imagery and how attractive honeybees are to everyone. This is from an amazing artist who did her master's thesis here at OSU, and I happened to see her show here at the Urban Arts Center, the Lazarus facility was. This is Lori Murphy, and if you take a look closely, this installation was huge. And she did a lot of wood burning, and what she created was a city and a factory, and she had the name Bayer, one of the European manufacturers of all the chemicals that are killing the bees, within this huge installation. It was one of the most impressive master theses I had ever seen. She's out in Colorado now. Now she's working with snails and slugs in her artwork. So anything that you can use to return to nature to utilize your artwork, go for it. Just go for it. Here's another iteration of a neat piece of artwork. This is what a standard frame would look like that we pull out of the hives. But here's an artist's interpretation of that same process. You can see the hand is definitely suited up, leather gloves on, right? Because when you're working with hives, the opportunity for being stung multiple times is great. This is an amazing artist whose work I love. This is Katrina Ring, Kat Ring. She's native to San Diego, but she lives in Europe. And you can see how colorful those interpretations are of those beehives. Most standard beehives here in the United States are either white or green, but that great use of color, and I swear to God she knows Joel Marlowe somewhere along the way. Here's one of our beehives. So when you see some of my artwork, you're going to see some of those same things utilized within that wherever we can. There are some of the things that are within our store in Grove City. You're going to see the old smokers and some of the other products that we utilize. In the background, there's always artwork that's up. In the background, there's a great sunflower from a wonderful artist, Candace Bonchake. We've got some great artwork here today from Julianne Temple Kearns. She runs my store in Grove City. She's an amazing artist too. She's sitting in the corner there, so I'm going to embarrass her. So we utilize great artists. Remember the doppelganger photo of the artist right at the beginning? That's this gentleman today. And look at that huge swarm of bees that's outside the hive. This is on his daughter's property. She's in Linworth. Everybody knows where Linworth is. Right. Okay. North Columbus. Alrighty. Here's some of the great way that advertising is used to consider the plight of the pollinators. Chemicals, still bees, sting bees, stop using chemicals. Backwards is used well. And they're using Clint Eastwood, of course. Okay. This is going back to one of Lori's pieces during that art installation. Great use. Look at how big that installation is. Wow. Isn't that amazing? Okay. And you can see how intricate it is. And there must have been 3 or 4 of these like this. I'm trying to get her to ship it to me in Colorado. It's so delicate, I'll probably go off there and get it and bring it back. Give me an excuse to go to Colorado. You can see how the logo, now the uses of bees within commercial enterprises. This is for beer, ginger beer. Sting. Look at that, Julie, ginger beer. How much I want for that?
Plus.
Yeah, $12.95. When I'm out in the hives with Mr. North, these are some of the things that I see, so I utilize it in my art. So it's all around us. That conversation that, we're bringing it back around to why I like to do what I do, because it connects me with nature, puts me back outside, utilizing clean air techniques. Yes, sir?
Normally, I got a little acre on the west side.
Yeah.
And basically, I don't put my yard, it's got a lot of flowers and this and that. But my ground cover is, you know, got the grass, but I have a lot of clover.
Excellent.
And in the summers, when the clover comes out, I get tons of bees.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
And they're in the flowers, and then you got the big bumblebees.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
All the pollinators are coming out at that point. Yes, sir.
What are those called, the purple?
That's wild phlox.
Oh,
Huge.
just wild.
Yeah, yeah. Yes, sir.
So going back to Lori's piece, I was just wondering if anybody's ever done like transparent beehives. Is that something that's been done, or is that affect?
Transparent beehives?
Yes, because I think it would be cool to see how bees actually.
Yeah, yeah. Well, we typically call those observation hives.
Okay.
Okay, so that, you know, you can see them being active within comb. Okay, and it's usually 2D, 3D. There's a new Australian brand that's been marketed. It was Kickstarter's biggest successful. They raised $12 million, I do believe, for it's an apparatus called Hive Flow, which lets you observe them. It's got little taps on it. You can go up to it, put your jar under it. But that's Australia. They can do that down here. Beekeeping in Ohio and a lot of places in the United States is completely different. But it has put these gentlemen on the map. So look that up, Hive Flow. Okay, yes, sir.
There's these bees outside of my house. They look like like furry bear bees. They're so fat.
Yes, bumblebee.
Yeah, and there's these bees, the other bees that are inside this wooden thing in my front yard. Look like, you know, one of those wooden things outside. They're inside
Yeah.
the wooden things.
Wood bees, wood daubers.
Yeah, and then this seems like those bees are chewing a hole right inside the wood
They will.
from inside.
Oh, yeah, yeah, 'cause they're making a home. Oh, yeah, they're making a home like anybody else.
Yeah.
Like woodpeckers and all sorts of creatures that live outside. Yes,
When the bees are in a transparent hive, do they behave the same way?
I think they're weaker over time because, you know, plexiglass and everything is kind of hot. It's hot inside a natural hive as it is. The good things with observation hives is that they need to be able to get out and go swarm and get nectar and everything. So some people have the PVC tubes that will go from this area and then go back outside. And they all start out wonderful, but after a season or two, they really kind of die off. I've yet to see one that's lasted for 10 to 15 years.
Bees has a very sensitive smell to them. The government uses them a lot
Oh, yeah.
at the airports
Mhm.
for baggage check-ins and stuff.
Yeah, there's quite a European movement for that, and certain species like bumblebees and all that for sniffing out land bombs. What do they call them? Yes, yes. Landmines, I'm sorry. Okay. This is a hive at one of the bee yards where I paint at in Ross County, Ohio. So you can see some beautiful things, and then there's a little interpretation of that same scene. So, I mean, Mr. North will go do his thing, and then I can just set up an easel 20 feet away, and then he's quite a prolific painter himself, isn't he, Joy? He's good.
Absolutely.
He's quite good. I painted at a historic place down in Marietta last week called The Castle. They called me this past Saturday and said, we're going through renovation in one of our buildings. We've got a swarm of hives. The construction guy said exterminate them, and would you want to come out and get these hives? So guess where I get to go today when we're done.
In the rain, you're gonna be grumpy.
They are going to be great. They're in Marietta. I don't know if they're So it's a great way to utilize all this stuff. This one of the great artists that we have here, you might know him, Alan Goff. He's represented by the Kenny Gallery. He and his wife, they have these on their property. There's some other artists from here from the Columbus area that will work. There's Roger Williams up there, and Patrick Sims, another great plein air painter. Who else is here? Don Pollock. He's a great writer. People are quite familiar with a lot of his work now. Here's my new honey bar down in Marietta. And I'll tell you, somebody must have said something because I had 2 undercover cops come into the store yesterday. And they're looking around and they want to get samples and all this other good stuff. And what it is, it's not a bar. It's a tasting table honey. That's all it is. This was at the state fair. I had another painting up there. So you want to know about me being an artist. But this is where I'm having a lot of fun because there's a lot of artistry in any kind of business. We talked earlier about being from Detroit. There is such artistry in manufacturing and that whole design process. And we forget about how beautiful that all is, where you can take a raw commodity and turn it into something. And the same thing with the bees giving us such a precious commodity that how we utilize it. It's great. Oh, Joshua Bee. Oh, hey, plein air painting at the Audubon Center. There's usually 8, 10, 12 people out there, and you're going to see lots of pollinators. So that gets me back. Oh, we're doing a video shoot over at the store on that. Here is a honey-infused martini from Sini's in Grove City. So I mean, honey is being utilized everywhere for everything.
Do you make mead?
Yes, I'm going to show you some pictures of that. We've got wineries and breweries that buy in bulk from us to utilize. Yes, sir.
You ever put some honey on your peanut butter sandwich?
Oh, that is a preferred mode. How much more time do we have here? We're closing in. Okay. These are some shots of one of the schools that we go visit. We have groups that are so large that it's hard to have them come through the store. So we go visit them. Remember earlier we talked about what was before the square long strip boxes? That's a skep, the old-fashioned skep. And you can see some of the new equipment there. And our future is with these little folks here. They are just so attuned to the plight of the pollinators. They're the ones that go home and tell mom and dad, we need to plant this. We want this in our yard. Can I go to the honey house to see, you know, all that good stuff. So they are very aware. This is what it looks like when you come out of one of those environments. Yeah, like I said, it's very, very labor intensive. Boy Scouts, look at the look on his face. and what we also do is we like to let them put on the beekeeping equipment so that they can experience it firsthand. We've had moms come to the store. We keep a big screen TV at both stores where people can bring in their little ones that are afraid of the bees. For some reason, they're scared to death. So it's a nice, calm experience for them where they can see the big screen, they can look at some of the books, the pictures, and see how those little teeny creatures aren't really out to get them personally. Okay, real good. Okay, what is this?
Wow.
Yeah, who goes to that?
Bees.
Bees. A lot of other pollinators too.
Flies around my house.
Yeah, so that kind of brings me back around as to why it's so important. You can see the tree lines in the background there. It's early spring. So we need to make sure that we take care of all these little guys. If you've got things like that, keep them out there. This is out at Dawes Arboretum, one of our favorite places to go paint. This is in the Japanese garden. So you're going to see research bees at the Red Barn at their research center across the way. So they are working hard to make sure that they're doing counts of what is in the area and how their bees are thriving out there. Yes, sir.
So how do like wild bees survive in the wintertime?
Like everybody else, they huddle up in a wall and they hide under the covers. And they don't come out till March or go from there. Literally, they will hide. What was bad for the honey population, the bee population this past spring, we had such a long winter and a very protracted spring. We had about 60% losses. So for Mr. North having about 850 hives, he lost literally 60%. So that means we do, like we talked about earlier, we requeen, we get nukes, we rebuild that. And then the bees come roaring back every spring because as long as they've got nectar to be able to feed their young in their own hives or in those trees where they have wild hives, then that population will come back. Yes, ma'am.
I'm very allergic to bees. Some years ago I had excuse me, a series of desensitization shots, allergy shots, you know, you get a little bit every
Sure.
week, you can And so I wanted to have that again, and then they said they don't do anymore.
No, they don't. What they're doing is they're recommending that you go see a good beekeeper, you get some good local honey, you get bee pollen, and then you take maybe a half a teaspoon of that, so that you're building up your immunity naturally.
Make sure it's local.
Make sure
Well,
it's
my neighbor on the next street over is a beekeeper.
Yeah, yeah. So
What
ask
is it?
that,
Tell me again.
pardon me?
What did you say? I should
Bee
get?
pollen, bee pollen. You see those pictures of the bees looking absolutely gorgeous with all that saffron colored powdery stuff all over them? Ever see those big close-ups? I didn't have them. So they need things like this. They need that water. They need foliage. If you haven't got a pond, get yourself a bird feeder, okay? So that they can do that. Now, when you do go see your local beekeeper, you want to make sure, this is Ross County, it's the fields of wild mustard and goldenrod during the fall hours. So our hives are within those 4 counties, from southern Franklin County, Pickaway, Ross, clear on down to Athens County now. Joe Pye weed, is that what that is? Purple Joe Pye weed. They love stuff. This is just one fall and winter hive. It's not the best representation. It's kind of light. But you can see all the different grades and colors of honey that they will pull from. Everything from nice clear light white to blue to green to yellow. And marketing teaches us that it's always gold. So this is where you see some blending of honeys for mass production, or you'll see specialty markets. If we have a honey that comes in that's more gray, somebody's going to utilize that in a health and beauty product, perhaps. Soaps, things of that nature. Okay. So to get back to your quick question, though, about your local honey, go see your beekeeper and make sure that they can tell you it's raw, unprocessed, unfiltered.
You know Will Merrill?
Is he in Columbus?
Yeah, he's on the next street over from me.
Oh, okay. No, I don't know him personally. But Franklin County has a huge bee club. They meet every month at Franklin Park Conservatory.
He belongs to that.
Yeah, great group. Huge. Our beekeeping group, Scioto Valley Beekeepers, gets larger every year. When I first joined them, I think they had maybe 86 people. They're up to maybe 236 people that come to those meetings every month. This is a honeybee chart. People were asking about Africanized bees or angry bees or wild bees. We try to work with bees that are receptive to having human contact. So they have specific traits that are very good for us. So the Carnolians, the Cordovans, the Italians, they all rate 10s all the way across the board. And you're going to pay a different price. Here's some of the things at the store. Got a little lady in Powell, Ohio. She uses our honey to make lemon tartlets with our honey in them. They're just gorgeous. Here's a little beekeeper. There's that big TV in the background I was telling you about, so that they can come in and become comfortable with that. Okay. Now that picture of the portrait, doesn't he look like that? It's just amazing. Julie, you haven't seen that portrait from the 1800s, and it's a beekeeper, and it's Jim. You can see one of our big tanks. So we have 3 honey tanks at the Grove City store. So it's quite an experiential thing. People will come in and fill their own jars and have a really good time. Here's how to revive insects suffering from heat exhaustion. This is very important. Okay, for bees, you just give them a spoonful of granulated. For butterflies, they like sangria. For wasps, they want a bottle of Jack Daniels, a line of Coke, and the contents of the Okay, so that's how you take care of them. And they interject some humor here. The question earlier was about some of the different groups that will purchase our honey for their wines and their meads. This is the Grove City Winery and the Grove City Brewery, right across the street from us. So, I mean, they come over, they buy 5 buckets, and they wheel it across traffic. Off they go. there's Mr. North again sampling, you know, the end result of his product. Just
So I know with insects like locusts, there's certain like sound frequencies that can throw off their whatever they use to communicate and fly around. But how does technology and those kind of things like that? Do you need to have one?
amazingly good and amazingly bad. We've got.
Did everybody hear that?
How does technology and noise impact bees? Okay, we've got neighbors that have been attacked by bees, like carpenter bees, and they jump off their lawnmowers and they ended up in their swimming pools because they do not like that sound. It's loud. They think it's a huge predator. So what do? They swarm. They just attack. Big noise. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, leaf blowers and weed eaters are horrible, and that's why.
Chainsaws.
Yeah, but that's why, you know, like Disney, how they do the air blowers, they blow all the leaves all the time. That's really harmful to all the bees that are.
It really is. There's big controversies about all the power lines, the electrical lines, and how those low-sounding frequencies bother them.
And I weld every so often, and sometimes they attracted by the welding light, and they like getting into the welding element.
Yeah, they can. It's amazing what certain kinds of species are attracted to. You might have been sweating if you had a welding helmet on, so those were probably other bees. So you got to take care of the local gendarmes. They come to the festivals, they buy our honey. This is Grove City. This is at one of the festivals. And you can see they always put us right next to the wineries that we help support. So it's a lot of fun. You can see all the product all lined up there. Some of the things that I have here for you today is right there. We do a lot of gifts for people. These are some of our charming little beaks that are coming up through the ranks, all of our Girl Scouts. Here's another avenue of bees being used in advertising. This is an artist that you all know in this area, Evangelia Philippides. She was the editorial artist for the Dispatch for about 20 years. She does our marketing. And that's the beautiful bee that she designed for us for a blonde honey ale that the brewery across the street makes. Yeah, these are beekeepers in Greece. Look at that. She sent this back to me, and you can see they're on the mountainsides. She was there this past summer. So there's, and you know, the kind of honey that they have in Greece, their primary products there are herb and vegetation, so it has a very herby taste to it. Real good. This is Mr. North. This is where we have a lot of the art that hangs in the hallway. We did an entire series on the Metro Park series. We used that as our excuse for painting with Joe Lombardo. And the entire hallway was nothing but plein air paintings of where the pollinators like to be. It was a beautiful show. I brought a couple of those from Miss Julie today. You can see. Oops. Okay, let's go to the next one. I think are we at 1 o'clock too? Beekeepers. Our Marietta store, beekeeping art, beautiful necklace there. If you're ever in Marietta, come see us down there. They have a lot of fun down there too. So even our advertising, we're busy. We're up here with the bees. All sorts of fun things. There you go. There's our store. Bang. And it's undergoing renovation. There's wax that people utilize. And it's just an excellent place. You've had amazing questions for me today. And I thank you so much. I'll have some honey. I'm supposed to run the bike and leave the room, right?
For you.